Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a really cool framework for thinking more clearly. It's called mental meta, which basically means meta-reasoning. Think of it as a tool for cutting through all the noise and getting right to the point.
So let me ask you something. You ever been in one of those conversations that just goes nowhere? You know, the kind that just goes in circles and every question just makes things more confusing instead of clearer? It's super frustrating, right? Well, there's a reason for that, and we're going to get into it.
The material we're looking at today draws this really sharp line between what it calls sensible criticism and hoax criticism. Sensible criticism, that's the good stuff. It clarifies things, it's based on logic. But this hoax criticism, all it does is create confusion with questions that go nowhere. The source has this great analogy. It's like trying to drill through solid steel with a paper drill bit. I mean, it's totally useless, just a complete waste of time.
All right, so how do we avoid using that paper drill bit? Well, that's where this framework comes in. Let's really get into it. It's called mental meta.
So this whole thing is built on three main ideas. First, whatever you're talking about has to be realistic. You need a real-world example. Second, it has to work on different scales, both big and small. And third, and this is the one we're really going to focus on today because it's the most powerful, it has to be backed by a universal truth, like a fundamental, unbreakable rule of how the world works. Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? The core idea is actually super simple. You take any statement, any argument, and you test it against a universal truth. And you'll see how this one little test can be an incredibly powerful tool.
Here's the process. You take whatever someone is saying, a premise, a question, an argument, and you ask yourself one simple question. Does this violate a fundamental, absolute rule of reality? That's it. That's the test.
And if the answer is yes, if it does break a universal truth, well then the whole idea is flawed, right from the get-go. And what's so cool about this is you're not just winning an argument. No, you're doing something much more important. You're actually just clarifying reality. You're bringing the conversation back to how things really work.
All right, to get us started, the source gives us a really, really powerful universal truth to work with. And I'm telling you, once you get this one rule, it can totally change the way you think, like immediately.
And here it is. Simple, but it's the key to everything we're talking about. Just let it sink in. Output cannot exceed input. That's it. So simple, right? But it's profound. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it's defined pretty elegantly here. It just means the result of something, the output, can never be bigger than the resources or energy you put into it, the input. And you can say this a bunch of different ways. A result can't exceed its support, or what you get out can't be more than what you put in. But however you phrase it, the basic logic is always the same. Okay, let's look at a super simple, almost silly example from the source to see how this works. Picture this. You're at the grocery store. Would you ever in a million years walk up to the cashier and seriously ask something like this?
The answer is, of course you can, right? It's so obvious, you don't even have to think about it. But why is it so obvious? What's the actual logic that makes this question sound so ridiculous?
And this is where that input versus output rule just clicks. Your input is the money you have, enough for 3 cans. Your required output is just the cost of 2 cans. Your input is bigger than your output, so the universal truth holds up. It works. And that's why the answer feels so immediate and obvious to us.
Okay, so now that we get the rule, let's talk about how to actually use it. How you can turn this one simple idea into a powerful tool for cutting through all the nonsense you hear every single day. What the source suggests is that we should start practicing with this single universal truth, using it like a new lens to see the world. You can think of it as like a mental telescope, something that helps you spot bad logic from a mile away. Or even better, think of it as a logical scanner. You can run any argument you hear through the scanner, and if the output they're promising is bigger than the input they've got, beep, 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 an alarm should go off in your head. So this one rule, that output can't exceed input, is a fantastic place to start thinking more clearly. And that kind of leaves us with a final question to chew on. What other simple, universal truths like this one can you start using to test the world around you?